How's it going? Welcome to Good Company and welcome back to the Gigafactory. Today we are creating our chemical workshop and it's fully automatic, and this is the start of something really good. We're basically doing all of our components fully automatically, and I was originally going to do this over like 1 or 2 buildings, but the scale that we do this at is ridiculous. So it ends up being over 4 buildings, and this is just a part 1 really of the next 4 episodes. So the original plan was to do every single component in 1 episode, but very quickly I knew that was not going to be possible because we need tons and tons of machines for the amount of components we actually need to make. So we were running out of energy cells after creating that power plant upgrade that we did last episode. So the first port of call was to just make more energy cells, and a ridiculous amount of energy cells, to be honest. So that's what we're doing today: chemical compounds and energy cells. Basically, the chemical compounds that we're making just use chemicals, and the energy cells take chemical compounds and plastic parts. So we are doing them on the chemical processing machine. They're quite nice because they're a simple shape. They're just a rectangle, so they can fit in buildings quite nicely. Saying that, I did look around for a good building that wasn't being used that we could build this in. However, there was none of them would suitable. So I decided to move the research over, and to be honest, the research is very temporary. It moves all over the place and it's one of those things where I'm not too bothered about having a dedicated area for it now. I just want to get the research done, and then we can put it in a corner somewhere, just making the research at like a decent rate. We're not going to need much research after unlocking everything, but that's a whole nother thing. So here we are making the energy cells now, and like I said, the energy cells take chemical compounds, so you actually need to make the chemical compounds on one machine and then transport them over to the energy cells machines, and that's what we're doing with that really long conveyor belt there. You'll see it in action in a little bit, but that basically just brings all the chemical compounds back round to the start and feeds them into the energy cell machines. So the ratios work out that you need 1 chemical compound machine for every 1 energy cell machine. So with this setup at the moment, we're not actually going to be making any chemical compounds that we can just use on its own. All of those machines are going to be feeding the energy cell machines. So we did need to put more machines in just making chemical compounds, but we get to that in a second. It did take me a little while to figure out the splitters and mergers. It's quite simple, but because a lot of the splitters and mergers are next to each other, it just kind of got a little bit confusing, just to make sure nothing really got routed around the wrong way and got stuck. So just putting down a temporary courier pallet, just bringing in chemicals. We're going to transport them over with a courier route just for now. We are going to have a central location where all of the materials for this component making system, I guess we'll call it, comes from. But for now, I wanted to get each building working automatically just with courier routes, and then we'll connect them all up with conveyor belts when we can, really. So the chemicals come onto the pallet, get picked up and get fed into the chemical compound machines. They then should go round and down that really long conveyor belt I mentioned earlier, but they got stuck, and I don't know why. I think it's just the splitters and mergers, but we did need to bring plastic parts over, which we're doing now. And again, this is where we need loads more components than what we're actually making. So I think we've only got like 4 pick and place machines making plastic parts, and that's got to feed everything in the factory at the moment. So here I am just sorting out the splitters and mergers, and you can see now it's working all good. The chemical compounds come down, get combined with the plastic parts, and then they both get fed into the energy cell machines. So that's all working well. However, we did have a little bit of an issue here because I didn't put a location for the energy cells to go to, so they just kind of got stuck in the system and tried to go around in a loop. However, we deal with that in a very short while. Just putting a few buffer zones in just to increase the throughput of that conveyor belt, and here we are just doing pallets for our chemical compounds and there was already a pallet there for our energy cells. So that's where they're going to end up for now. We are going to have a central location for where the components are going to end up, just like we have at the moment, but I didn't want to do this too fancy because we're going to have conveyor belts going everywhere. So this is just very temporary, and we can change it when we decide on a location for where the components are going to be stored, basically. So this conveyor belt here is going to bring chemical compounds and the energy cells over to where they need to go. And the good thing about this is we can literally just route that conveyor belt anywhere we want in the factory. So once we decide, we can just change where that goes, and it's all going to work fine. So as you can see, energy cells and chemical compounds are coming down that conveyor belt and going to where they need to go, which is a huge relief. However, like I said before, the ratios of the machines are 1-to-1. So eventually chemical compounds are going to stop coming out, and they're all going to be used for those energy cell machines. So I'm just rerouting some stuff around because I noticed half of the energy cell machines weren't working. And again, that's just splitters and mergers, but that gets sorted out. As you can see, it's all working now. So here we are, just putting down some machines for our chemical compounds. These are just extra, and these are going to be the ones that actually supply the final component pallet for chemical compounds. So that gives us a lot of production of energy cells and chemical compounds without basically running out, hopefully. So just using that little extra space that we left at the bottom of the building just to whack those machines in. Again, routing the materials through kind of got a little bit stuck because set it up wrong, but we get it sorted eventually. And it does take a little bit of trial and error just to get things working and moving, but once you just go down the conveyor belt one splitter merger at a time and just figure it out. I don't know if that was helpful tip or anything, probably not, but that's what I do. I just go down the conveyor belt, figuring out what I can do, where I can do it, and it eventually works. So I did think about creating some more plastic parts because we were running out of those, and just routing. To be honest, I don't know what I'm doing at the moment. I'm just doing courier routes apparently. So I think chemical compounds, did we remove? I think we were running out of chemical compounds, so I just wanted to reroute some courier pallets and stuff around just to make sure everywhere had courier pallets. And we are running out of money. That's probably why. I probably got a bit desperate just to make sure everything was still up and running, and well, material was getting to where it needed to be. So the good thing about the chemical workshop, actually, I've left some space, so if we do need to add more machines, we can add more chemical compound machines and more energy cell machines. There's space for it, so if we do run out in the future, we can just add more machines in and it should be fine. So yeah, I think what I'm doing here is just trying to not go bankrupt, so just making sure all of the products are going to where they need to go, and I think I managed to do that. So here we are, the chemical workshop. Very happy with this, actually. We do modify it a little bit because we will make it fully automatic in the future, but thank you for watching. Thank you to the workforce. Stay safe, have fun, and I'll see you on the next one.